Hey everybody, it's Don again from North of Detroit Outdoors. Thanks for joining me. Well, in this video, I'm responding to comments from a previous video that I released a few weeks ago called Hawk Crawler Deer Cart After One Hunting Season. Now, most of the people who responded on that particular video wanted to know how I attached the Hawk Crawler to my e-bike and whether or not an adapter was necessary to do so. So I decided to make a video just showing how I did it. It may not work for everybody, but this at least can give you some guidance. So let's get into that right now. Now, when I decided to try to attach my deer cart to my e-bike, I looked on YouTube to try to find different examples of what I could do. And there were a whole lot of different options that I found, but many of them were very, very limited in the degrees of freedom that you had. For example, if you're traveling down a path that's uneven, maybe it has some inclines or declines, maybe it has some sharp left or right turns. Many times the hitches that were used or the connectors between the e-bike and the Hawk Crawler caused it to bind up such that it didn't work as well as I would have liked. So I spent a lot of time on the internet trying to find a hitch that would work well. And what I found was the Ventura ball and hitch. Okay, as you'll see, you have the ball assembly. You have the seat post bracket with an included spacer. And then you have the coupler. And as you can see with this coupler, this will allow the bike to move in whatever orientation that I want. And it'll still keep very good contact with the cart, and it won't bind up no matter how I turn. Now this hitch is designed to connect to the seat post, but I didn't want to do that because I thought the Hawk Crawler handle might be a little bit too close to the bike rack, and if I had to make sharp left or right turns, it might interfere with the bike rack, so I decided not to attach it as it's designed. Luckily for me, the bike rack that's attached to my e-bike has an extra mounting plate for a tail light that wasn't needed for my particular model. And to use the mounting plate, I knew I was going to need an adapter to attach the ball assembly to the bike rack. Now, after a little thought, I came up with a concept and made a rough draft on my phone. And after taking a few measurements, I created a crude drawing. I then found a piece of scrap aluminum and asked a friend who was a machinist to mill out the rough dimensions. Now, this could have easily been done with a bandsaw, but because he had access to a milling machine, it made it a lot more easy for me. As you can see, this adapter is pretty crude, but it doesn't have to be pretty to be functional. I then find the correct orientation, and then I made holes in it so I could attach it to the mounting plate on the bike rack. Then I assembled the coupler to the seat post bracket. Once I found the correct orientation, I drilled through the seat post bracket, right through the handle of the deer cart, all the way through to the other side. And then I mounted it with nuts and bolts to keep it in place. The way I initially tried to mount the coupler to the seat post bracket, it just didn't work. And the problem was attaching it this way with the rear hole of the coupler left too much space in between the end of the coupler and the handle. Now you'll see here the problem that it caused. This extra pivot point that I didn't want. Even when I shimmed it with extra pieces of metal, it just didn't work right. So to eliminate this, I measured the distance between the hole in the coupler and the handle of the deer cart. So I cut the coupler, removing that rear hole and using the front hole instead. This way, I was able to make the coupler the exact dimension that it needed to be. Also, I made it the inner diameter of the coupler and the curved edge of the seat post bracket. Together, these modifications created an assembly that fit very well and is much more solid. Lastly, I put a rubber spacer between the two ends of the seat post bracket to take up some space and make it a much tighter fit. All right, everybody, this is the finished product. I've been working on this a couple days on and off, just trying to get something that really worked well. And this piece here, that goes over the ball, it was a little bit longer. It had 2 holes in it, you might remember. And I took this and used my cutoff wheel to cut it off, so I'm using the front hole instead of the back hole. And what that does is it allows this, the rest of the stock behind the hole, to come in contact with this piece here. And as you can see now, it's really solid. I mean, it doesn't want to move. And then this here, the receiver, here, let me take it. The receiver had a tendency to rotate down. This whole piece would rotate down about this axis here. And of course I didn't want that. I wanted it to stay level. So I just put this, this plastic pipe I had laying around, I just put it under here and just put a couple of twist ties on there to hold it in place. And that's really all it's going to take to hold it in place, because there's really no forces acting against this that's going to pull it off. But what it does is it helps to keep this level. And as you can see, there you go. I can just attach the two. Now when I cut this, it was at a different angle before. When I made it a little bit shorter, you can see now it's cocked at an angle. It's not completely parallel, and that's fine, because again, we have quite a bit of movement that's allowed in this ball and hitch, so it doesn't hurt it at all. But if you're going to do this yourself, you want to make sure, if you decide to cut this, after you cut this, then locate it on the handle so you can have it in the right orientation. The hitch now works exactly as I hoped it would. Now this may not work for you, because again, how you attach your ball assembly to your bike is going to be different if you don't have the same type of bike that I have. But as you can see, it can be done very easily with some simple do-it-yourself modifications. So once I get a deer and I'm able to use this deer cart to drag a deer out of the woods, I'll be able to see if this weld plate is welded robustly enough such that it stays intact. But time will tell. So I hope this video was helpful to you. If you have any questions, feel free to leave your questions in the comments, and I'll make sure I respond to you that way. Until then, I hope you're having a great time in the field, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.